So I'm here talking with Dave Barton, and we're going to be talking about the new initiative that he's setting up, which is called the Patient Panel. What can you tell us about it, Dave?
Hey Neil, how's it going? Yes, so patient panel. It's an idea that sort of spun out of talking to lots of different stakeholders within the cannabis industry, talking to both patients and to companies, not just sort of clinics, but I guess the distributors and the producers and things like that, and really thinking about the value that we need to bring into the UK market. Because again, one of the biggest problems is that, we don't have, huge patient numbers here in the UK relative to the population. We have something like, was it 60,000 at the last count? And we're a
Is
nation
that
of,
that's your ballpark at the moment, is it?
at the moment, I mean,
Yeah,
again,
same here.
definitive kind of data, but that's you know that's to be determined. But again, that in a nation of 67 million people, I mean, again, and it struck me that a lot of the sort of the problems come in when you don't seem to have this kind of joined up ecosystem of kind of yes, we have brands that are coming from different countries that want to come into the UK medical market, but do they do the right kind of research? I think that from my understanding, when I speak to patients, that doesn't seem to happen. They don't, and again, it kind of, I think the frustration from the brand part itself is that they can't necessarily market themselves directly to patients. So again, therein lies the challenge. How do you bridge that gap between what brands coming into the UK want to do and what patients are actually looking for? So again, this is the idea behind the initiative, to use to kind of bring that kind of market research element to the UK cannabis market. And again, patients are very vocal. You only have to go on the kind of Reddits and different Discord communities to kind of see what they're saying. They understand a lot more than, your typical patient in the kind of broader sense around medication. Um, so they know what works for them. They know what they want, I think, for the most part. So I think, again, it's about listening to patients, understanding what the need is, and allowing brands to kind of tap into that when they want to kind of come into the market, or perhaps they're expanding, or perhaps, it doesn't necessarily have to be a flower or a kind of actual product brand itself, or it could be, a vaporizer company, or it could be, someone looking to, develop something specific for the UK market. So again, that's the idea behind it. Patient panel is literally to have a whole panel, create a way for patients to give their insights, feedbacks, thoughts, and, opinions to companies coming into the UK market. And again, the idea here is that a lot of patients don't, a lot of them can't work, for various conditions and things like that.
Mm.
And again, the idea is to get them to be paid for that, giving their research. So again, it's kind of project by project, piece by piece. And as brands come in and we have chats with them around, what they're looking to understand, again, to make some provision for them to be paid for their time and effort. So again, I just see it as a win-win-win, and something that could, is something is largely missing from what we have right now. So it's a way of kind of bridging those gaps and ensuring that everybody benefits.
Okay, great. Well, I've got a couple of questions from that. For the people who perhaps are not familiar, you mentioned that companies can't market their products. If you could give us just a little explanation for people who might not be aware that is the case.
I think, again, when I've spoken to salespeople from various companies that are operating like, I guess the kind of, the medical companies, they can't have those sort of relationships with patients. Yes, clinics will have, patients, they'll be able to communicate with them and talk about their services, but that's kind of a closed ecosystem in a way. And again, it should be. I mean, there was a data leak recently with CB1, not great, but at the same time, you know, what can we do, or how do we, again, it's not about getting the data. It's more about giving people the opportunity. So again, what I'm looking to do is partner with organizations like a potentially Patient Can and, UPA and other kind of patient groups and things like that, and allow them access to, bring brands to them, if you like. That's the idea, rather than kind of have them, because again, there are various restrictions around, you can't market a brand in the way that you would any other product in the cannabis industry. You can't make medical claims around it does this, it does that. So again, there's some real obstacles in terms of like, how do you get a brand out there? You have to kind of go through, you have to kind of develop those, a lot of brands will have their own kind of Reddit groups and things like that. But again, it's about, what do you do when you want to increase that, the patient numbers? How do you reach new patients? How do you, engage with people that may be cannabis consumers, but are still going through the kind of, the black market or whatever, and things like that.
So on this, the one side, the industry has got a challenge, but then on the patient side, there are already a number of patient groups. I guess, how do you see patient panel consolidating, or what is the service, or what are you offering that those patient groups perhaps might be struggling with?
Exactly. I think again, a lot of it is the sort of recognition, and I think a lot of it's kind of financial as well. So again, it's about we're gonna all it's organizing the research contact with the brands and managing that part. That's what patient panel will do, and then it's working alongside those groups and allowing them to be participate in that, rewarding them financially for the efforts that they've gone to. So it's a kind of feedback loop, if you like.
Yeah. And what sort of can you give us some examples of areas that you think would be prominent? The sort of the first meeting that you have, what would be your number one
Yeah.
the subject to tackle?
I think when it comes to patients, what I'm looking to do is really give them the opportunity to voice their opinions about specific things. So when I'm talking to brands, it's about like, have you got access to how can you test the market if you don't have a way in? And so it's really about, if I'm talking to brands, it's about, okay, you have an opportunity to come into the UK market and really make a difference. You can then find out more about the sort of product, the form factors, the different strains, cultivars, and things like that people are using. What are they using for those different kind of conditions and the qualified conditions that they have as patients. And it's about kind of uniting all of that information and sort of saying, okay, if you're coming to the UK, this is what patients are looking for. This is what they want, because they are the market. And that would happen in any other industry. If it was, chocolate or something like that, you'd have a whole opportunity to kind of go out and test products with people and talk to them and get their feedback and opinions and kind of do blind taste tests. It could be, obviously be different with cannabis. It's not about necessarily, I know that there are ways for clinics to sort of try different products with clients, but it's not necessarily about that. It's about understanding what they're looking for and have it. And again, that's the sort of message to sort of patients as well. You've got all of this knowledge and all of this insight into what works for you. Now let's give you a platform in which you can be rewarded for giving that information to brands who want to, expand and create more opportunity and provide better medication for patients here.
Yeah, so
So I feel
it's not speak for being, it's not so much a lobbying group, but it's market, but in a way it is lobbying the brands, isn't it? You're saying, well, I don't find this is ideal. I would like to improve it in these ways.
I think the only way that things are going to sort of change, and there's going to be broader awareness of the impact and the positive things that, cannabis can do as a medication. It's about having those conversations, about kind of candor. And again, I think you won't get any more kind of candid and radical than the voice of the patients themselves. And I think that's what we've seen that. And I think that's how it should be. I think, again,
Absolutely.
you don't, and if brands don't, typical case would be, okay, say you get a brand from, country X that, produces a lot of cannabis per year. They want to see opportunities and put them into Europe or something like that. So they might be coming from North America or Australia, wherever it might be. So again, they've got this surplus, but are they just trying to sort of shift it onto markets where there is a medical cannabis market, or are they actually kind of doing that kind of investigation piece? And I get the need, again, there's, price compression, if you've got too much, what are you going to do with it? How do you export it? I think a lot of, having been spoken to a lot of producers and, companies from North America and other places, that is a challenge. They want to be able, and I think this is a way of doing that properly for the long term. And there are opportunities, but I think, again, the sort of need right now for companies, say in North America, they're looking at, okay, we need to do something short term, right? We've got this surplus of products, how do we sell that? But I think the European perspective, where we've mostly got medical markets, is more a case of, well, we need to just kind of take our time with this and see what's happening. Again, here as well, it's, what has it been, nearly 7 years since you.
28, yeah, do the maths, yeah.
Exactly. And again, it's like, well, so they say, progress has been made, but, we need to kind of expand on that. We need to grow those patient numbers. I don't see anyone else kind of doing. I mean, I guess clinics are looking to do more for themselves, but there doesn't seem to be that kind of opportunity. And so it all feeds back into that broader awareness of the impact of medical cannabis. That's
Well, it
why I
sounds
feel.
like a fantastic initiative. So if you're a brand or a patient, how do you get involved?
Well, you can visit patientpanel.uk. That's the website. There will be information on how to get in touch with me. Um, for patients who kind of want to apply, as individuals, and again, like I say, I'm looking to work with different groups and things like that. But patients can, fill in a questionnaire and that kind of talks a little bit about that, and they can, join our database. Um,
And you
that
mentioned that there is compensation for their time. So,
yeah,
it's
this is it.
recognized
This is
that
it.
they're going to be giving their time and the brands are going to be getting value out of this. So there's a fair, yeah.
Exactly. That's it. It's about finding a way that benefits everyone and still has a positive impact for the market itself. So that's the hope. So that's the plan. And yeah, looking to talk to as many people as possible. So if anyone's interested and wants to find out more, then yeah, please give me a shout.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks very much for giving us more information and I'll hopefully people will get in contact.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Neil. All right, have a good one.